Hey everybody, Scott Johnson here. It's the Diary, and got a little thing on my mind that I think we ought to discuss here. It's a little something to get out of the way. There was a lot of freak out yesterday. I guess was it yesterday now or the day before? Whatever it was. I think it was yesterday. The day that Assassin's Creed Shadows was announced, the new Assassin's Creed set in feudal Japan. And that thing, caused all kinds of freak out during the day. And the reason it caused freak out during the day is because everything seems to these days. But also there was some legitimate stuff like, hey, once again, Ubisoft is selling a thing for, 15 different tiers, or at least it felt like it. I think there's only 4. But, lots of hiding certain content behind a purchase tier or a battle pass, these sort of things. And, the usual stuff that irritates us. We don't like that. We feel like these companies sort of, pushing the limits of that sort of thing. And it's not just Ubisoft. EA does. Everybody does this. It's the whole big AAA business now. This is what they do. So that nickel and dime stuff, I expected some discussion around that. They happened with their Star Wars game showcase. They did not showcase or whatever. They showed the trailer for it a month ago or whatever. Same thing. And this is a company that right now is fun to hate on because, there hasn't been a ton of great content out of Ubisoft, and what has come out have had issues, either launch issues or just were undercooked or, whatever. And they're clearly trying to get the groove back at a time where all the major companies are struggling. And by the way, if you're used to me hopping on this here diary and going, yes, my personal life and my dog did this today. Don't worry. Those are things that I talk about all the time. But today we're dedicating this to a thing that's bugging me about the internet. All right, back to the point. You don't even have to be interested in video games to get where I'm going with this, okay? Because it's not really about gaming. It's about another part of human behavior that has got me irritated, and that is this. This announcement comes out, and there, for the first time in Assassin's Creed history, you're going to get to play one of the 2 protagonists of the game as an actual historical figure. Is it Yasuki? I can't remember how you say his name. He was an African man who came to Japan. There's a whole story behind it. I'm not going to recite the whole thing, but there's historical stuff you can go read about this dude, and it's super interesting. I think I know there's an anime that's supposed to be pretty good. I meant to check that out. I think there's some live action stuff. The story is out there, but I don't think it's super common knowledge, which is kind of where we run into a problem because what happened was they announced this, and immediately the part of the gaming world that doesn't like, how do I put this? I'm trying to be very even keeled in my discussion here and not, I'm trying to see it from the angle that all parts of the argument are seeing it from. It's hard to do actually, because I just think one angle of it is just so insane. But anyway, the first thing people did was go, great. They jammed a black guy into a game in Japan. Woke. It's woke. And then there's a girl ninja. There were no girl ninjas. Woke. Like this whole thing. And it was immediate. It wasn't like it took a little time for that to bubble up or, start in some forum somewhere and slowly roll out. It was like immediate. And it made me realize something. Of course, a lot of people had no idea about the actual existence of this character, this black man who became a samurai. So the knee-jerk reaction was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're putting a black guy in a Japanese game. I don't know where these people were when Tom Cruise was a white guy in a Japanese movie, but whatever. They seemed to be awful quiet when that happened. I don't know. I remember some backlash then too. So if I'm honest, it's always, there's always going to be somebody saying something. And I'm not talking about just the usual derision you get with anything, right? Furiosa's coming out in a week and a half, and early reviews are starting to roll out and they're very glowing. But what do I hear about? people knowing my love for Fury Road in particular and George Miller's work and everything, they send me this review from Time Magazine that says it's overblown and boring and too repetitive or something like that. And it's like one out of, the rest of them were like either glowing or very happy with the results of this movie. Some calling it the greatest film of the year, some saying it's the greatest thing since Fury Road. Like all these like really strong positive opinions about it. But of course, what are people doing? They're sending me the one outstanding negative one from a major outlet. Well, why do they do that? Let's break that down for a second. You would only do that to poke the bear, right? You know how much I love a thing, and so you're trying to see what I do. How's Scott going to react to this? And I think that's a piece of this thing with the game. People are now conditioned. I don't know how you reverse this or even approach to address this. I don't know. This is going to be a frustrating entry into the show because I don't have a good answer for this. But it seems like when the visceral reaction, when anything comes out, is to look for a problem first and then blow that thing up and talk about nothing but whatever the problem is you found, whatever the flaw is. It doesn't matter. It could be minor. It could be, I don't know. It could be anything. Honestly, it doesn't matter what direction it's coming from. I don't like it no matter what. If I say to somebody, "Oh, I've never seen Baby Driver. I really want to see that," and people say, "Scott, that has Kevin Spacey in it," as if I'm supposed to just by default boycott anything ever that somebody else tells me is a problem. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that it seems like Kevin Spacey's a grade A jackhole and a terrible human being behind the scenes. But I'm not going to toss, an entire movie out by one of my favorite directors that, for whatever reason, I don't know why I haven't seen it. I just didn't get around to it. Because of that, it's not enough for me. And some people right now probably hear me say that and go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it." Look, this is part of the problem. I don't know what part of it is. If it was easy for me to like tell you the anatomy of this problem, I would, but that's why I'm filling it out here. Back to the game for a second. People are so conditioned to immediately jump on it. Even if there's nothing there, they're just conditioned and ready to go. And it's usually when it's something from a big publisher or something like that. There's a scale issue going on here. Nobody does this if it's a small indie title. Nobody goes, "I can't believe they made an indie title and there's a girl running around in that game. That's a man's media." Nobody does that. Nobody says that about the little pixelated side scroller that, Jerry and his buddies made and put on Steam. Nobody does that. Where did they do it? Big major AAA releases. Anything that you see come out of EA, Blizzard, Microsoft, Sony, any of them, right? And that initial reaction is just really bugging me. It's just really bugging me. First of all, like I got in this argument with somebody. He goes, "It's so lazy. Just make an Assassin's Creed in Africa if you want to put an African in it." And I replied, "Did you not play Origins?" He said, "That was set in Egypt." And I almost didn't reply because I felt like I was talking to a dog. But I said, "Egypt's in Africa? Like that's literally an African country? Like, that's a continent, right? And there are many countries within Africa. And Egypt is an African kind of like I was kind of having that moment of like, please tell me you're not really, you don't really not know this. Like I was a little beside myself, and there were a bunch of examples of this. There were other people saying this sort of stuff. I'm like, okay, I realize we've assigned a lot of supernatural lore to the ancient Egyptians in a way to make them almost feel separate from all of humanity. They're almost alien. I mean, hell, we made a movie and a TV series based on it with Stargate. But the idea that they were a civilization that existed on this planet in a place that we all know, maybe that's just too much for people. to grasp, or maybe I don't know. But that's my point. Is I think the conditioned reaction mode that people are in is making them forget logic, forget knowledge that they probably already have, and they're just going straight to the BS. And I see it, you see it with anything and everything. I can't tell you how many times here's a good reminder. I mean, you know what? Part of this is there's the world, and then there's the social media world, and they're very different worlds. And I know this may sound stereotypic or trite or something, but let me hear me out for a second. These two worlds are not the same. And one of them thinks that it's everything and all encompassing, and the other is going about their business. And you can guess which one is which, right? The social media world, in particular, things like Twitter and stuff, and I don't call it X still, I just can't do it. I don't know how to change my brain. Or, I'll just do like the news articles always do. Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter. That's how I'll say it. But anyway, when I go on there, it's its own ecology. It's like everyone in there thinks that because the algorithm has fed them 10 posts that seem to be related to what they just posted or what they're thinking about right now, that's confirmation that it's zeitgeist, that it's everyone is thinking it. Everyone is talking about it. Everyone agrees with me, or everyone disagrees with me, whichever it is. But that you were all thinking the same thing. And I try to imagine it like this. Like you have a pond of fish, and those fish are going, dude, look at that insect, sweet, get it. Oh, he got it. All right, well, what's next? Oh, is there some other food in here? Sweet, there's some more food. Here we are, subsisting in our pond. Frank over there got a fly. Damn it, I haven't had a fly in weeks. That sucks. But this is our world. This is all that matters in here. It's just us fish and the things we eat. We poo in here. When Larry died, he floated upside down, and we all ate his flesh because that's what we do. We're fish. All the rules. This is the world. This is it. This is everything. Everything. We don't know anything but this. This is it. This is the whole world. We don't even know that there's anything else but this. This is it. And then you pull the camera out of the pond, and there's a vast world beyond the pond that is not all caught up in who's eating Larry and where's the next fly coming from. They're busy living their own existences. I feel like that's what social media is today. And maybe always has been. But it's this sub-ecosystem that thinks it's the tip of the spear. And it's not. And I've fallen victim to this myself. I feel the same sense of confirmation bias sometimes when I'm in there and I'm saying something, and then I'm being fed things either publicly or in my own following that confirm what I'm thinking or support what I'm thinking or whatever. And then I start to realize, oh, well, then we're all in this together, when really it's just our little pond. And there are millions of ponds. And on top of that, lakes and oceans and rivers and tributaries and strange stagnant standing water in a bucket in somebody's backyard with strange creatures in it. Like there's all of these separate dimensions, you could almost call them, exist in the world, but they're none of them, they all think they're the world, but none of them realize the world is much larger. And I think it's just really easy to get lulled into that. Sorry, the metaphor went on a little, maybe too long, but the point is, I think that's what happens. I think if you are interested, for example, back to the Assassin's Creed thing, if you're interested in the Assassin's Creed series, this looks like a good one. This looks really interesting. And they've said a bunch of other things about it that I'm stoked about, like the size of it and the scope of it and how the world will be different than in the past. And some of the comments they've made about the environments and the open world part of it is they're approaching it differently than in the past. And it's interesting stuff. Like mechanically, it sounds interesting. Story I'm interested in. I know very little about this historical figure, Yosuke, whatever his name is. And I want to learn more, right? Not that the game will be the ultimate. It's a game after all. They're going to take liberties, but I'd like to learn a little more about whoever that is. Might deep dive some of that too. Although, man, stay away from that Wikipedia article. Yesterday, it got edited like 50 times by people trying to change. It's an old article. It's been there forever about this guy. Somebody went in there and said, contrary to modern thinking, he was not a real samurai. And then somebody changed it back. And then there was a change to make some other weird little text change. And it was just back and forth, back and forth. Thankfully, the way Wikipedia works, you can see the history. The edit history kind of says it all. But this is what I mean about people in their ponds thinking that they've got it all figured out. They think that so much so that they go out and sabotage other sources of information to support their pond, you know? And it's really frustrating to see and watch and hear and observe. And I feel, my biggest problem is I feel helpless. So I end up getting these little spats to feel better about my position in all of it, which is calm down, play it if you want to, don't if you don't buy it, I guess. Do you have to immediately get online and shit on everything because you've convinced yourself that the world has an agenda? It's the same problem I have with like any kind of conspiratorial thinking. I don't know if I have any friends that are explicitly flat earthers, but I've got friends that have some pretty crazy ideas about stuff. And, I've got a friend who hoards guns and does it because he's convinced that the government will take his guns one day. And so he thinks by having more of them, even though he can only really hold one or two at a time, he thinks that if you hoard enough guns in his basement safe thing, that will stop any sort of incursion to come remove his guns. And yeah, like I don't even so having said that, I have friends who have like one hunting rifle and they go out and shoot at a range once in a while, and otherwise they lock it away and maybe pull it out for hunting season, and that's it. I don't have a problem with that. It's fine. It's when people get conspiratorial and think someone's after them, or they think that someone, I don't know how to explain it. What I'm trying to get to is what it does to me is what I'm trying to solve. Because what it does to me is just make me angry, irritated, and a little hopeless. It's like, well, what's the point then? What are we all doing here? If we can't hear about a thing and then judge it on our own without having a million little biases pop up on our head and go, oh, this is what they don't want you to know. Like, why are we, what? What is it? Why? And I'm not saying there aren't cases in this world where somebody is being repressed, held back, told they can't do a thing they shouldn't do. Certainly there are, regimes and governments in this world that do this to their own people. I'm not saying that isn't the case. What I'm saying is it's not the case for every single human being, and especially not people who are privileged enough to live where they are, be on a platform they want to talk on, and then act like they're some kind of repressed people simply because there's a black man in a video game coming up. I don't get it, dude. I do not get it. Any more than the idea that Kevin Spacey's presence in a film automatically devalues or invalidates everybody else in it, everyone else who contributed to it, everyone who wrote it, directed it, produced it, made it. Like, I don't buy that either. So, am I the weird one? Honestly, am I the weird one? You can tell me. We're friends here. Maybe I'm weird. Maybe I have it all wrong. I don't think I have it wrong. But I've been wrong before. I'll admit it. I'm the first person to admit when I'm being stupid. Am I being stupid? Tell me what you think. I have this text line that people can send feedback to. 801-471-0462. You can use it anytime. Leave a text or a voicemail. If it's for this show, I use it for all the shows, but if it's for this show, I'll read it here. And we'll discuss this further. All right. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me and being part of The Diary today. I hope to see you all soon on another episode. Be good and be safe. Eat all the cake. That doesn't make sense. I'll see you next time.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Yes. Get more at frogpants.com.